The bright lights of Hollywood shined with a special kind of magic on this beautiful day, illuminating the grand stage where stories of love were about to be shared with the world. The air was thick with excitement, a gentle hum of anticipation that only a room full of hope and new beginnings could produce. This was the place where memories were made, where laughter was the primary currency, and where four brave couples had come to prove just how well they knew the hearts of their chosen partners. It was time for the Newlywed Game, a celebration of union, patience, and the delightful quirks that make every marriage a unique masterpiece. On the stage, standing with radiant smiles that spoke of fresh promises and shared dreams, were the stars of the day. Couple number 1 was a pair whose journey together in marriage had reached the 3-month mark, the charming Vivian and Andy Kendall. Next to them stood couple number 2, Denise and Keith Hyde, who had been navigating the beautiful waters of matrimony for 10 months. The third couple, Lena and Christian Dangard, brought a youthful energy to the group, having been wed for just 2 months. Finally, couple number 4, Teresa and John Payne, represented the seasoned veterans of the group with 23 months of marriage under their belts. Each pair stood close, their hands perhaps a little shaky from the excitement, but their eyes filled with the warmth of shared history. The audience erupted into a wave of applause as the man who served as the conductor of this symphony of stories stepped forward. Bob Eubanks, the host whose name was synonymous with joy and professional grace, took his place at the center of the universe. He greeted everyone with a warmth that felt like a familiar embrace, extending a special welcome to the 4 couples who were about to embark on this playful challenge. He looked at them with a twinkle in his eye, asking if they were ready to play. A chorus of enthusiastic yeses filled the studio, signaling the start of something truly special. The game began with a gentle transition as Bob explained the first phase of the journey. To start the process of discovery, the ladies were asked to retire to a soundproof room, leaving the gentlemen alone to face the first set of inquiries. This was a moment of quiet focus for the husbands, a chance to reflect on the nuances of their wives' personalities and habits. Bob reminded them that each correct prediction would earn them 5 points, leading toward the ultimate prize of a second honeymoon, a chance to rekindle the flame in a paradise far away. With the ladies safely tucked away, Bob turned to the men and posed a question that touched upon the light-hearted side of physical perception. He asked the gentlemen to identify which part of their wife's body she would say bounces the most. He gave them 3 choices: the top part, the middle part, or the bottom part. John was the first to answer, stating with confidence that his wife would definitely choose her top part, describing it as well-proportioned. Christian followed suit, agreeing that his wife would also point to her top part as the most bouncy area. Keith and Andy did not hesitate either, both echoing the same sentiment that the top part was the answer their wives would provide. There was a sense of jovial unity among the men, a shared understanding of the playful nature of the question. The second inquiry delved into the world of social circles and the funny little labels friends sometimes carry. Bob asked the men to imagine their wife's friends as light bulbs and to identify which one she would name as the dimmest. Christian was the first to speak, naming a friend named Julia and suggesting with a laugh that there was not much activity behind the eyes in that particular bulb. Keith offered the name Laurie as the dimmest among his wife's acquaintances. Andy followed with the name Cindy, jokingly remarking that while the lights might be on, nobody appeared to be home. John concluded the round by mentioning a friend named Allison, whom they had affectionately nicknamed Nutso, hoping his wife would not be too upset by the revelation. The final question of the 5-point round turned toward the future and the delicate subject of family traits. Bob asked the husbands to complete a sentence regarding their hopes for their wives as they grew older together. The sentence was, "As my wife and I grow older together, we can only hope that she does not become blank like her mother." Keith answered first, expressing a hope that his wife would not become stubborn like her mother, noting that the mother-in-law was quite hard-spoken. Andy, with a nervous laugh, used the word crazy to fill the blank, though he made sure to add that he loved the woman regardless. John hoped his wife would not become slow like her mother, explaining that his mother-in-law was often late for everything. Christian ended the round by hoping his wife would not become a shopaholic like her mother. As the show moved into a brief interlude for messages about bright smiles and clean energy, the anticipation built. The audience was treated to visions of a better life, from dental care that transformed confidence to solar power that brought independence and savings. There were stories of jewelry being valued and sold to new owners, all part of the tapestry of daily life that surrounded the grand event on stage. When the curtains rose again, the ladies returned to the stage, their faces lit with curiosity about what their husbands had predicted. Bob welcomed them back and began the process of revealing the answers. The first question was revisited: which part of their body did their husband think bounced the most? Vivian laughed and immediately chose her top part, feeling she had been blessed in that area. Denise also chose her top part, mentioning that as a runner, she noticed quite a bit of movement. Lena agreed with the top part, mentioning that her husband sometimes worried about her clothing being too revealing, a sign of his protective and perhaps slightly jealous nature. Teresa completed the perfect match for the group, also choosing her top part because she knew her husband appreciated that aspect of her figure. Every couple scored 5 points, a testament to their shared understanding. The momentum continued with the question about the dimmest light bulb among friends. Denise chose a friend named Brianna, calling her a bit slow, though Keith had predicted Laurie. A small, playful disagreement arose as they debated who was actually the least bright. Lena, however, matched with Christian by naming Julia, explaining that her friend from Germany was sometimes a bit lost. Teresa also matched perfectly, naming Allison and even mentioning the nickname Nutso that John had used. Vivian rounded out the successes by naming Cindy, just as Andy had predicted, noting that Cindy was sometimes a bit inconsiderate. The final part of the 5-point round regarding the mothers-in-law brought a mix of laughter and mild tension. Lena guessed that her husband would say fat, but was surprised to find he had chosen shopaholic. Teresa guessed overweight, but John had actually chosen slow. Vivian found a perfect match when she guessed crazy, confirming that her mother was indeed quite energetic and perhaps a bit overwhelming. Denise guessed overwhelmed and busy, but Keith had gone with stubborn. Despite the differences, the spirit remained light, with the couples laughing off the near misses. The show transitioned again, offering glimpses into health benefits and financial solutions, reminding the viewers that life was a balance of responsibility and play. There were mentions of social security benefits, insurance, and the ease of managing one's home and garden. These moments of practicality served to ground the excitement of the game in the reality of the world outside the studio. The stakes were raised as the game entered the 10-point round. This time, the husbands were sent away, and the wives were asked to predict their partner's responses. The first question of this round touched upon the intimate beginnings of their relationships. Bob asked the ladies if their husbands would describe their first time being intimate as all thumbs, all talk, or all over the place. Lena chose all over the place, admitting with a smile that they had been celebrating a bit too much that day. Denise chose all talk, explaining that they had waited a long time and her husband was very cautious and concerned about her comfort. Vivian opted for all thumbs, attributing it to her husband's natural nervousness. Teresa chose all over the place, noting that she had made her husband wait a full year before they reached that milestone. The next question asked the ladies to identify the last place they went together where they had a lousy time and it was entirely the husband's fault. Denise pointed to a trip to a store called Mervyn's just the day before. Vivian recalled a dinner at a seafood restaurant where the food was terrible, blaming her husband's choice of venue. Lena gave a poignant answer, naming their own wedding party, explaining that she spent the entire time caring for their 18-month-old daughter instead of enjoying the celebration. The final 10-point question asked the wives to complete the sentence. One of these days, I am going to tell my husband exactly what he can do with his blank. Vivian chose his baseball hats, which she said were scattered everywhere. Teresa chose his shoes, mentioning he owned 50 pairs. Lena chose his mother, a bold answer that brought a gasp of laughter from the crowd. Denise also chose baseball hats, noting her husband's constant habit of wearing them. A bonus question worth 25 points asked the ladies to identify the room in their home with the most windows. A consensus seemed to form, as Teresa, Lena, Denise, and Vivian all identified the living room as the brightest spot in their respective houses. After another brief pause for reflections on cyber safety and the joy of simple games, the husbands returned for the final revelation. The tension was palpable as the points were tallied. When asked about their first intimate encounter, Keith said all over the place, missing Denise's answer of all talk. Christian and John both correctly predicted all over the place, matching their wives' answers. Andy, however, said all over the place while his wife had guessed all thumbs, leading to a playful defense from Vivian about his nervousness. Regarding the lousy time and the husband's fault, Christian guessed a bowling outing, missing Lena's answer of the wedding party. This led to a humorous story about being locked out of the house in the cold without a shirt, a tale that highlighted the ups and downs of their lively relationship. John missed the mark by naming a trip to Mexico, while Andy successfully matched the seafood restaurant answer. Keith missed the mark by naming a different city, as Denise had focused on the shopping trip. The final regular question about what the husbands could do with their possessions saw John guessing his football team, while Teresa had said his shoes. Andy guessed sports, but Vivian had pointed to his hats. Keith guessed shoes, while Denise had said hats. Christian guessed his new car, but the audience roared when he learned Lena had said his mother. The final bonus question about the room with the most windows became the deciding factor. Keith, Christian, John, and Andy all correctly identified the living room, leading to a flurry of points. In the end, it was Andy and Vivian Kendall who emerged as the grand prize winners, their scores reflecting a deep, if sometimes humorous, connection. They were awarded a second honeymoon to the beautiful islands of Hawaii, a place of sun, surf, and serenity where they could continue to build their beautiful life together. As the show concluded, Bob Eubanks bid the audience a warm farewell. The stage remained a place of light and laughter, a reminder that in the journey of marriage, the most important thing is not always getting the answer right, but being willing to share the journey with a smile. The couples walked away, some with prizes and all with stories, heading back into the world with a little more love in their hearts than when they arrived. The bright lights of Hollywood continued to shine, but the true radiance came from the people who had dared to share their hearts on this unforgettable day.